Hello all, welcome to CloudChat 365. So in this video, we are going to see about what is an Azure Virtual Network and how to deploy the same. So before get started into deploying an Azure Virtual Network, we need to know a few basic concept of what is a network. A network is a system of interconnected devices or computer that communicate and share the data between two different computers. It allows you to data exchange and collaborate across local or wide geographical areas. So consider I have a computer A and computer B and I want to share a resource from A to B. I use a technology something called network, right? So this could be a single computer or group of computer. So this network will use a something called IP address. An IP address is an internet protocol address that unique identifier assigned to each and every device which is connected to a network. So a network technology will use a service called IP address, which is an unique identifier assigned to each and every devices which is connected. So consider you have a computer A and computer B again. So this computer A will have a private IP and this computer will have a private IP. So with help of these two different unique address, a communication will be transferring between a source and the destination. So this IP address we have into two categories. One is IPv6 and another one is IPv4. So we are going to see in depth. So what is the difference between IPv4 and IPv6? So we'll go with an IPv4 in detail. An IPv4 is a fourth version of Internet Protocol IP address, and it was widely used to identify devices on a network through an addressing system. An IP address has a format of IPv4, which is a 32-bit numbers represented in the 4 octet, which is an 8 segment per octet. For example, now if you take this block is separated by dot. Okay, so dot 1, dot 2, dot 3 and dot 4 you can consider, and each block will have something called 8 bit of segment, which is 8 8 8 8, so total 32 bit IP address. And this IP address format will range from 0 to 255, and it has been categorized into class A, class B, class C, class D and class C. Okay, and example of an IP address of V4 structures 192.168.1.1. So here you can see, right, it was separated by something called dot, right? 192.168.1.1. Okay, and an IPv4 as an capable to provide 4.3 billion unique IP addresses. Okay, when it comes to the IP address V4 in detail, we have classified into A, B, C, D, and E. So each ranges of A, B, C, and D will be taken from the 0 to 255. As I told you earlier, the 0 to 255 ranges has been classified into 0 to 127. You can see this is considered as a class A. So in this class A, the private ranges are 10.0.0.0. So this is the range we can use it for the private LAN routing, and rest of the ranges from 0 to 127 apart from this 10 ranges is public ranges. So these are all the public routable IP ranges. Okay, and class A is used for a large network with many devices, and it supports up to 16 million hosts. And when it comes to the class B, the first octet will starts from 128 to 191, and here you can see the example of private IP ranges of class B is 172.16.0.1, and rest of the 129, 130, 131, likewise 1 until 191 it was a public routable ranges, but apart from this 172 network. Okay, and it is used for the medium sized network which supports up to 65,536 hosts. And when it comes to the class C, the class C will have an octet of 192 to 223. In this The first octet 192.168.1.1 is a private LAN ranges, which is used for private local area network routing. And apart from this 193, 194 until 223, which is an public routing IP address. Okay. And class D is 224 to 239, which is used for multicasting group. It's not for the individual host. We are using like A, B, and C. And class C, which is used for reserved for research and experimental purposes. So when comes to the class A, class B, class C, D, and E, the class A, class B, class C are widely used for our regular basis, regular communication basis to communicate between devices, and class D is used for multicasting, and class E is used for research and experimental purpose. Okay. And what is the difference between public and private IP address? As I told you, even we have a range between 200 0 to 255. Only the common ranges like class A, from class A 10.0.0.0 to 10.255 255 255 is a private range of class A, and private range of class B is from 172.16 to 172.31. So this is for private range of class B. And for class C, the range is between 192.68 to 192.68.0.0 to 192.168.255.255. So this is the range for class C. So rest of the ranges are used for public communication, public routable IP addresses. Okay. This public IP address are globally unique. So this public IP address are owned by the ISPs, like Airtel or Etisalat or Idea Network or DU. So this IP address has been owned by the ISPs, and they will used for the public communications, public routing, information routing communications. Okay. So we have seen about a network now. So what is a subnetting? Okay. So even though I have a range of 10.0.0.0 as a private range to route, but I can classify the network into multiple subnet. Okay. So that is called subnetting. A subnetting is a process of dividing a larger network into smaller network. So this range will give me, for example, you can consider the class A will give me 16 million host. Okay, but consider I don't want to connect to a 16 million host. What I can do is I will use something called subnetting. Okay, so using the subnetting, what I will do is I will slash the network, and I will use it as a defined as a network portion and host portion. For example, now I am going to set up a network which is 10.0.0.0, and if I put a subnet mask is 255.255.0.0 means then this portion has been reserved as a network host, network portion, and this one will be declared as a host portion. So host portion is something like we can use it for assigning an IP address to one machine. Okay. So now what I will do is I will reserve this 16 bit. So consider now I have an 8 bit of octet. So 8888. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reserve this 16 octet. Okay. And then now I have only two octet which is free, that I can use it for my system host IP address. So I can use it for my IP host. Okay. So consider the example of 255.255.255.0 is this means the first 24 bits are network portion. So I cannot use this for host. So I will use this subnet for resembling my network, and last 8 bit I am going to use it for my host. Okay. So likewise what I can do is I can slash the network, I can slice the network, and I can use it in the smaller chunk, so that I can avoid a large number of IP usage in my network. I can reduce the risk in my network. And how many hosts, for example, now if I want to connect only 100 hosts, then I will use this subnet, because this subnet will give me to connect between 254 hosts. So this is more enough for me to connect to set up the virtual network. Okay. So now comes to what is a virtual network. An Azure Virtual Network is a software-based network that connect virtual machines and device, allowing them to communicate securely just like a physical network. Okay, so in our organization, we can define something called VLANs in the switch and routers. So likewise, we are using a specialized software. It's a software-based network that helps to connect to virtual machines and devices, like how we are effectively using the same setup in the physical network. So this is called a virtual network, and it was commonly used in the cloud environment like Azure or AWS to control the traffic and manage the resources and isolate the different systems. So similar like subnetting, here we say something called a subnets. So each VNet we can create multiple subnets. So this subnets can be used to distinguish two different uh, segments of a network so that you can effectively route the data. In Azure, a subnet is a logical division of virtual network that allow you to segment and organize the resource within a network. This subnet help in isolating and controlling the flow of traffic within a network, and similar how they are used to traditionally in the networking. For example, in your organization you will have something called VLAN. So this VLAN is for IT department, and this VLAN is for finance department, and this VLAN is for uh, infrastructure. So likewise, a network admin will define the VLANs, and he will apply the firewall logics everything on top of that particular VLAN. So likewise, what we can do is we can slice the VNet into different subnets, and we can allocate a different IP ranges for the subnets, and we can effectively use it for the web tier, data tier, or middleware tier. And what are the key features? IP ranges allocation. Subnet divides a VNet IP address for better resource organization. And when it comes to the isolation, subnet isolate the resource for improved security and traffic control. For example, you can apply the NSG, network security groups, on top of the different subnets, and that will filter out the traffic based on your need. And you can define the network firewall rules for a different web server tier and web server data tier. So likewise you can define. And when it comes to the network security groups, yes, as I told you, you can easily assign the network security groups on the different subnet to control different set of datas. And you can use the routing option to route a specific subnet to talk to a so and so VNet and subnet. And you can do a controlling of public and IP addresses communications, and you can easily integrate with the other services like databases and other services. And also you can do a VNet pairing between two VNets, or to communicate and establish the communication between two different regions. For example, now I have created a VNet in East US region, and I want to connect to a West US region resource. Means using a service called VNet pairing, I can able to do a service establishment. Okay, so let's go to the demo how to deploy a virtual network. Now I logged into Azure portal, which is portal.azure.com. Let me go to all services, and let me go to the networking, and here I have virtual network. Create a new virtual network. Let me create a new resource group, which is demo RG, and location. Let me put East US region, and demo VNet. Next. So I'm not going to enable any security. Let me go to the next. So here you can see, right? It starts with class A private IP address range, and it was starting with 16. So 16 means 10.0.10 dot plus 0. So until this one is a network, and this one is a host portion. So now using this slash 16 subnet mask, I can use 65,536 IP address with this range. But still what I can do is I can create multiple subnet and I can reduce the same. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to add a new subnet. The subnet name is data, or I can put with web subnet. Okay, and web subnet, which is starting with IP ranges of 10.0.0.0 to 10. Here you can see, right, 255.255. Since the slash 16 is occupied, the first two ranges are occupied. Here you can see the 255.255 is a last range. Until the last range I can use it as a host portion. Now I don't want this 256 address. Now if I want to reduce, means I can do a slashing. For example, what I can do is, for example, now for this VNet I'm going to deploy only a 16 or 15 servers, means then I can use this slash 28 as an subnet mask range. And now you can see only I can use only 16 addresses. Okay, so next, for, or what I can do is, if I want to add another subnet, means I can easily add that. So I will show that once I created this VNet, I will go to the network settings and then I will showcase you how to add a further subnets. Okay, the deployment is succeeded. Okay, the deployment is complete. Let me go to a virtual network. So now here you can see a demo VNet has been created. So now here you can go to the address space, and here you can see this is my address space for that VNet, and total IP address I can use in this address ranges, which is 65,536. And when it comes to the connected devices, I have not connected any devices so far. And subnets, here you can see I have created a subnet called web subnet, and only IP address, sorry, the usable IP is 11, because even though the usable IP range is 16, it was mentioned earlier, once a subnet is created, the three IP address will be taken by the system. So one is for system default. So in this three, we'll go for DNS, DHCP, and gateway. So when we created a subnet, it say 16 address can be assigned. We will get a 16 IP address. But once the subnet is created, what it will do is it will reserve three IP address for DNS, DHCP, and gateway. So that's what remaining 13 IP address are showcasing here. Now, if I want to create another subnet, means I can click on create a new subnet, and I can put for data tier. And again I can mention, since I have used 10.0.1 I cannot use the 0 again. So the next range, which is starting from 1.0, so 0.0 it is already occupied, so the ranges are starting from 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. So likewise 254.254, so 255.254 I can use that range. Okay, so just click on add. So now here see it was 256 IP address I can use in this data subnet it was showcasing. But now you can see only 251, because as I told you, in this 251, in this 251 IP address, the three will go for system default, which is DNS, DHCP, and the gateway, and 255 is a broadcast IP, so it cannot be considered as an usable IP. So that's how the VNet deployment will work. Okay, so let's comes to the session recap. So in this session we have seen about what is an IP address, what is a network, what is an IP address, what is IPv4 in detail, and how to deploy an Azure VNet and subnet. So if you like this video, please do a like, share and comment to CloudStar 365. And if you have any suggestion or feedback, please post it on the comment. I will definitely reply for your questions and suggestions. Thank you. Have a nice day. Happy learning.